welcome back to Create Your Own Concert. Today we're going to be talking about design and we're going to meet Bex, who's our brilliant graphic designer. Now Bex produces the images that you'll see on posters and online, and they'll tell you a little bit about the concert and hopefully make you want to come along. So she's going to share some of her tips and some of the process that goes into creating the images. So if you're interested in art, this is going to be a great one for you.
Thanks, Kath. Hello, I'm Bex and I design the posters for children's classic concerts. I'm going to talk to you just a bit about the process for designing a poster. So the poster is the way of advertising your show and getting the audiences to come along. So it's a way of showing people the identity of your production without them having actually seen the real thing yet. The first thing I do is I think about what the image is going to be, so what the content of the poster will be. It's best usually to think of just one main thing that will be the focal point. You can have lots of things, but it's a good guideline to try and think of one simple main image. So for example, with children's classic concerts, we tend to do either a character that sort of represents the theme of the concert, or it could be a thing. So in the past we've had a ship, a train, a concert hall, that sort of thing. The other big thing with children's classic concerts is to try and get the theme of music across, because when someone sees a poster, they don't necessarily know that it's for a concert. So we usually have either a character playing an instrument or sort of instruments poking out from behind things, or music notes and things like that. So once you've decided what your image is going to be of, the next thing I do is I start just sort of sketching it out roughly to see what it looks like. It's best to try and make your image vaguely squarish in shape so that it can work on landscape formats and portrait formats and all sorts of different things, and have the title added to it. So I do a sketch just with pencil and paper. And whilst I'm doing that, I'm thinking about the style in which it's drawn. So it needs to feel quite young for children's classic concerts because the audience are children. So it needs to have a sense of fun and a young feeling to it. And the next thing to think about is colours. It's good to think of a sort of main colour usually, rather than trying to use lots and lots of different colours. If there's sort of a limited colour palette, then it can be easier to make it all come together as a design. The next thing I think about is typography, which is the way that the title is written. So I'll draw out by hand how I think the lettering should look. And again, this is a way of getting across the fun feeling of the shows and the sort of the young feeling. You pick a font or you pick a style of writing that both gets across your theme. So maybe it's spooky, maybe it's Victorian or whatever, but also, as well as that, it needs to feel kind of fun and bouncy and energetic. So the next thing I do, which you may not do at your end, is I put it all onto my computer. So I use three pieces of software. They're called Photoshop, InDesign and Illustrator. For children's classic concerts, it's all mostly in Photoshop. So what I do is I draw out all of the shapes. And to begin with, they're just flat shapes in flat colours. I use this, which is a graphics tablet instead of a mouse, to do the shading, basically, to give it all a 3D feel. And with children's classic concerts, I do actually have a sort of set style of doing that. There's always a sort of backlight light coming from behind. That's not a general rule. That's just the style which I use for children's classic concerts. Once the illustration's finished, then I add on the typography, and I'll use the drawings that I've done, but I'll usually try and find a font that works for that, and then I'll manipulate the font until I'm happy with the way it looks. The final thing to do is to add on the information. So it's really important to tell people where it's happening, when it's happening, and how they can book. So those are the three main pieces of information. Sometimes you might want to include a tagline, which is just a short sort of sentence or even just a few words that gets people excited about your show. And then your poster is finished. I wish you all the best of luck with your projects.